The slave market of Zephyria Prime stank of desperation and broken dreams. Maya Chen walked through the cramped corridors, her worn boots splashing through puddles of unidentifiable liquid that reflected the sickly green glow of overhead bioluminescent strips. The 17-year-old human kept her head down, trying to blend in with the crowd of alien traders, slavers, and bargain hunters who frequented this place. She shouldn't be here. Humans weren't exactly welcome on Zephyria Prime, especially not young ones wandering alone through the most dangerous district of the space station. But Maya had exactly one credit to her name, and she was desperate. 3 months ago, her family's cargo ship had been attacked by pirates near the Outer Rim. Her parents and older brother hadn't made it out. Maya had escaped in a damaged life pod, drifting for weeks before being picked up by a Vorthack trading vessel. The crew had been kind enough, in their own way, but they'd dropped her off at the nearest station with barely enough credits for a meal. Now she was down to her last credit, and the gnawing hunger in her stomach was becoming impossible to ignore. Fresh meat. Get your fresh meat here, bellowed a four-armed Krillian merchant, his voice cutting through the general din of the market. Prime specimens from the Andorian colonies. Maya quickened her pace, not wanting to draw attention. She learned quickly that being human made her a target. Humans were considered weak, primitive, and, worst of all, stubborn. Most galactic species had given up the practice of keeping slaves centuries ago, but humans still fought slavery wherever they found it, which made them unpopular with the wrong crowd. She turned a corner and found herself in a section she hadn't seen before. The stalls here were smaller, shabbier, and the merchandise looked different. These weren't the healthy, well-fed specimens from the main market. These were the rejects, the damaged goods, the creatures that nobody wanted. A sign caught her eye. Everything must go. Rock bottom prices. Some assembly required. Behind the hastily scrawled words stood a nervous-looking Glorthian, his blue-scaled skin glistening with sweat. His stall was barely more than a collection of rusty cages stacked haphazardly against a wall. "You look like someone with discerning taste," the Glorthian said, noticing Maya's interest. His translator device gave his words a tinny, artificial quality. "I have many fine specimens here. Very cheap, very negotiable." Maya approached cautiously. Most of the cages were empty, but she could see movement in a few of them. A wounded Altarian bird creature huddled in one corner, its beautiful silver feathers matted with dry blood. In another cage, something that looked like a cross between a cat and an octopus slept fitfully, occasionally twitching its damaged tentacles. But it was the largest cage that caught her attention. In the far corner, barely visible in the shadows, lay what could only be a dragon. Maya had heard stories about dragons, of course. They were supposed to be extinct, wiped out in some ancient war thousands of years ago. Yet here one was real as anything else in this horrible place. The dragon was magnificent, even in its obviously weakened state. Its scales were a deep crimson that seemed to absorb and reflect the ambient light, and its body was roughly the size of a large horse. One wing hung at an odd angle, clearly broken, and its breathing was shallow and labored. Its eyes were closed, but Maya could see the intelligent curve of its skull, the careful way its claws were positioned even in sleep. "Ah, you have excellent taste," the Glorthian said, following her gaze. "That is a genuine Draconis imperialis. Very rare, very expensive. Usually. What's wrong with it?" Maya asked, stepping closer to the cage. "Oh, many things," the merchant said with a dismissive wave. "Broken wing, internal injuries, hasn't eaten in weeks. Probably going to die soon. Very sad, very unprofitable." The dragon's eyes fluttered open at the sound of their voices. Maya found herself staring into pupils that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The dragon's gaze was ancient, weary, but undeniably intelligent. For a moment, Maya felt as if the creature was looking directly into her soul. "How much?" she asked quietly. The Glorthian laughed, a sound like grinding gears. "For a dying dragon? Who would want such a thing?" It cannot work, cannot fight, cannot even fly. It is just a burden. How much? Maya repeated. The merchant studied her for a moment, taking in her worn clothes and obvious poverty. You are human, yes? Humans are strange. They collect broken things. He paused, then shrugged. 1 credit. Maya's heart skipped. 1 credit was exactly what she had. But 1 credit was also her last chance at a meal before she starved. She looked at the dragon again. It was watching her with those impossibly deep eyes, and she could swear she saw something like hope in them. Or maybe she was just projecting her own desperation. I'll take it, she said before she could change her mind. The Glorthian's eyes widened. You actually want it? But it is dying. It will be dead within days, maybe hours. What use is a dead dragon? Maya pulled out her single credit chip and placed it on the merchant's counter. Maybe I just like lost causes. The transaction was processed quickly, as if the Glorthian was afraid she might change her mind. A few minutes later, Maya found herself standing next to the dragon's cage with an ownership transfer pad in her hand. There, the merchant said. It is yours now. But, I warn you, do not expect any refunds when it dies. All sales final. Maya approached the cage slowly. The dragon had closed its eyes again, but she could tell it was aware of her presence. The lock on the cage was electronic, responding to her new ownership codes. The door swung open with a soft hiss. Hey there, she whispered, stepping inside. I'm Maya. I guess we're stuck together now. The dragon opened one eye and studied her. Up close, Maya could see just how badly injured it was. The broken wing was the least of its problems. Its scales were dull and cracked in places, and she could see what looked like infected wounds along its flank. Its breathing was ragged, and there was a wheeze to it that spoke of damaged lungs. You're in pretty bad shape, aren't you? Maya said softly. She reached out slowly, giving the dragon time to react if it wanted to. When it didn't move, she gently touched its snout. The scales were warm, and she could feel the faint vibration of its breath. The dragon's eye fixed on her face, and suddenly, Maya heard something that made her freeze. Help me. The words hadn't been spoken aloud. They had appeared directly in her mind, carrying with them a weight of pain and exhaustion that nearly brought her to her knees. You can talk? Maya thought back, not sure if she was going crazy. Not talk. Think speak. Few can hear. Fewer care to listen. Maya sank down beside the dragon's massive head, her hands still resting on its snout. What happened to you? The dragon's thoughts came slowly, as if each word was an effort. Captured, tortured, made to fight in arena for entertainment. Well, I could no longer win. They sold me. Well, I could no longer fight. They sold me again. And again. How long? 7 years. Maya's heart clenched. 7 years of slavery and abuse. No wonder the creature was dying. Why did you buy me, young human? You have no credits for healing, no ship for transport, no weapons for protection. You have saved my life only to watch me die. Maya was quiet for a long moment, thinking. The dragon was right, of course. She had no idea how she was going to care for a dying dragon. She had no money, no resources, no plan beyond the vague hope that somehow things would work out. I don't know, she admitted finally. I couldn't leave you here. The dragon's eye closed, and for a moment Maya thought it had fallen asleep. Then she felt its thoughts again, softer this time, tinged with something she couldn't quite identify. What is your name, strange human child? Maya. Maya, Chun. I am called Daraxis. Was heir to the ruby throne of Dracosia. Maya blinked in surprise. Your royalty? I was. Before the war. Before the exile. Before. The dragon's thoughts trailed off into pain and exhaustion. Maya sat with Daraxis for what felt like hours, just breathing in sync with the ancient creature. Around them, the noise of the slave market continued, but it seemed distant and unimportant. She was trying to figure out what to do next when she heard heavy footsteps approaching the stall. Where is Scrix? A harsh voice demanded in broken galactic standard. Maya peered through the bars of the cage and saw 2 massive Organi warriors standing at the merchant's counter. The Organi were a warrior race known for their brutality and their love of gladiatorial combat. Their leader, a scarred brute with cybernetic implants covering half his face, was examining the empty cages with obvious displeasure. The Organi, they have come for me, Thraxis's voice whispered in her mind, filled with terror. Scrix, run away, the Glorthian merchant was saying, backing away from the warriors. He take nothing. He leave everything. Very sorry. The dragon, the lead Organi growled. Where is the dragon? Dragon? What dragon? I have no dragon here. The Organi grabbed the merchant by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Do not lie to us, little merchant. We paid good money for that dragon. It was supposed to fight in the grand tournament next week. Maya felt Thraxis tremble beside her. They will take me back. They will make me fight until I die for their sport. No, Maya thought fiercely. They won't. I told you, the merchant gasped. Scrix took everything valuable and ran. Check the records. All sales final. The Organi dropped the merchant and pulled out a scanner device. Maya watched through the bars as he swept it over the empty cages, looking for any trace of draconic DNA. The scanner began to beep frantically as it approached their cage. Found it, the Organi snarled. Maya's mind raced. She looked down at the ownership transfer pad in her hand, then at Thraxis. The dragon was watching her with those ancient eyes, resignation written in every line of its body. Hide me, Maya whispered, and crawled underneath Thraxis's wing. The dragon, understanding instinctively, adjusted its position to conceal her as much as possible. The Organi reached the cage and peered inside. In the shadows, with his coloring and the way he was positioned, Thraxis looked like little more than a pile of old leather and scrap metal. This, the Organi said dismissively, this is not the dragon we paid for. This is carrion. His companion grunted in agreement. Dead soon. No sport in this. But the scanner detects dragon DNA. It does not distinguish between live dragon and dead dragon. The first Organi kicked the cage in frustration. This one is worthless. Let the scavengers have it. They turned and stalked away, arguing loudly about how they were going to explain the loss to their arena master. Maya waited until their footsteps faded before crawling out from under Thraxis's wing. The dragon was looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You hit me, he said finally. Of course I did. You're mine now. That's what the ownership papers say. Papers can be forged. Laws can be changed. Ownership can be transferred. Maya stood up and faced the dragon directly. Maybe, but I'm not selling you. And I'm not letting anyone take you. We're going to figure this out together. Thraxis was quiet for a long moment. Then, so softly she almost missed it, she heard him whisper in her mind, Thank you. Maya knew she should be terrified. She was alone on a dangerous space station, broke, hungry, and now responsible for a dying dragon that was apparently worth enough for gladiator fights. But, looking into Thraxis's eyes, she felt something she hadn't felt since her family died. Purpose. Come on, she said, checking the corridor to make sure it was clear. Let's get out of here. We need to find somewhere safe to figure out our next move. Thraxis struggled to his feet, favoring his injured wing. Even weakened and broken, he was an impressive sight. His head reached nearly to Maya's shoulder, and his presence filled the small cage completely. Moving through the slave market with a dragon, even an obviously injured one, attracted attention. Maya tried to look confident, like she belonged there, but she could feel eyes following them. A few merchants called out, offering to buy Thraxis, but Maya ignored them all. They made it to the market's main corridor before they hit their first real problem. Halt! The voice belonged to a Zephyrian security guard, one of the insectoid beings that served as the station's police force. License and registration for that creature. Maya's heart sank. Of course there would be paperwork. There was always paperwork. I just bought him, she said, producing the ownership transfer pad. The sale was legitimate. The guard examined the pad with 2 of his 4 arms while the other 2 rested on his weapon. This shows ownership transfer, yes. But no import license. No health certificate. No transportation permit. How much for the permits? Maya asked, even though she already knew the answer. Import license, 50 credits. Health certificate, 25 credits. Transportation permit, 30 credits. 105 credits. Maya had 0. The guard's compound eyes focused on her. You cannot move this creature without proper documentation. It must be impounded until fees are paid. Please, Maya said, desperation creeping into her voice. I just bought him. I don't have the money for permits right now, but I will. Just give me some time. Regulations are regulations, the guard said firmly. He spoke into his communicator, calling for a transport cage. Maya felt Thraxis tense beside her. The dragon's thoughts whispered in her mind. Run. I can't leave you. You must. If they impound me, I will disappear into the system. You will never see me again. Then we go together. Before the guard could react, Maya grabbed Thraxis's uninjured wing and pulled. Run. What happened next would be talked about in the markets of Zephyria Prime for years to come. Thraxis, despite his injuries, moved with surprising speed and grace. His powerful legs propelled them forward while his tail swept 2 more arriving guards off their feet. Maya clung to his neck, trying not to fall as they raced through the crowded corridors. Behind them, alarms began to blare. Emergency blast doors started closing, but Thraxis anticipated each one, sliding under some and leaping over others with moves that shouldn't have been possible for a creature in his condition. The docking bay. Maya shouted over the noise. We need to find a ship. Thraxis banked sharply to the left, nearly throwing Maya from his back. They crashed through a fruit vendor stall, sending exotic produce flying in all directions. The vendor, a 6-legged creature Maya didn't recognize, shouted curses in several languages as they disappeared around the corner. The docking bay was in chaos when they arrived. Word of their escape had apparently spread, and security forces were scrambling to seal off all the exits. Ships of every size and shape filled the massive space, from tiny single-person scouts to massive cargo haulers. There, Maya pointed to a mid-sized vessel near the far end of the bay. Its cargo ramp was down, and she could see movement inside. That one's loading. Maybe we can sneak aboard. They made it halfway across the bay before the security forces spotted them again. Energy bolts began to sizzle past their heads as guards opened fire. Stop! You are in violation of station regulations. The public address system boomed. Thraxis stumbled, and Maya felt him falter. The adrenaline was wearing off, and his injuries were catching up with him. I cannot continue much longer, he gasped mentally. Maya looked around desperately. They were still 50 meters from a ship, and the guards were closing in from all sides. That was when she saw him. A human man emerged from the cargo hold of the ship they'd been heading for. He was tall and lean, with graying hair and the kind of weathered face that spoke of years in space. His clothes marked him as a trader or smuggler, and the way he carried himself suggested he was comfortable with trouble. Please, Maya called out to him. Help us. The man took in the scene with a glance. A young human girl riding a wounded dragon, being chased by station security. A normal person would have minded their own business and closed their cargo ramp. Instead, he smiled. Well, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear, this looks interesting. Zara, fire up the engines. We're leaving early. The man drew a weapon and began providing covering fire while Maya and Thraxis covered the last 50 meters. Energy bolts splashed against the cargo ramp and the ship's hull, but the man's aim was good enough to keep the guards at a distance. Get in, he shouted. Thraxis collapsed as soon as they reached the cargo bay, his strength finally giving out. Maya tumbled from his neck and rolled across the deck plates. Ramp up. Go, the man yelled. The cargo bay doors slammed shut just as the ship lifted off the deck. Through the small porthole, Maya could see the docking bay falling away below them as they escaped into space. The man holstered his weapon and turned to look at them. His eyes were kind, but sharp, the eyes of someone who had seen a lot of the galaxy and learned to read people quickly. Well, he said, extending a hand to help Maya to her feet. "I'm Captain Jack Morrison, and you two just made my day a lot more interesting than I was planning for." Captain Jack Morrison's ship, the Wandering Star, was a modified Corellian freight hauler that had seen better decades. The cargo bay, where Maya and Theraxis now found themselves, was spacious enough to accommodate the dragon, but everything about the ship spoke of practical use rather than luxury. Exposed conduits ran along the walls. The deck plates were worn smooth by years of foot traffic, and the whole place hummed with the sound of well-maintained but aging machinery. "Zara," Jack called toward the forward compartments. "Set course for the neutral zone. Standard evasion pattern 7. A woman's voice came back over the intercom, tinged with a slight Altarian accent. "Aye, Captain. Station security is hailing us, by the way. Something about harboring fugitives. Tell them we're having communication difficulties," Jack replied with a grin. "Must be all that electromagnetic interference from a nebula." "What nebula?" Zara asked. "The one we'll be flying through in about 10 minutes. Maya knelt beside their Axis, who had collapsed onto his side. The dragon's breathing was even more labored now, and his scales had lost their lustrous sheen. The escape had taken everything he had left. "I am dying," Theraxis whispered in her mind. "You should have left me. Now I will die on this ship, and you will be blamed." "You're not dying," Maya replied firmly, though she wasn't sure she believed it herself. "We're going to figure this out." Jack approached them cautiously, his hand resting on the butt of his sidearm. "So," he said, studying their axis with professional interest, "I've smuggled a lot of things in my time, but I have to admit this is my first dragon. Mind telling me how a kid like you ended up with something like him?" "I bought him," Maya said defensively. "Legally. For 1 credit." Jack whistled low. 1 credit? Either you got the deal of the century, or that dragon is worth exactly 1 credit. He paused, taking in Theraxis's condition. "Given his current state, I'm betting on the latter." Maya stood up, putting herself between Jack and the dragon. "What do you want? Are you going to turn us in?" "Turn you in?" Jack laughed. "Kid, I just shot at station security to help you escape. I'm already an accessory to whatever this is. Besides," his expression grew more serious, "I don't like slavers. And for what I saw back there, you were rescuing him, not stealing him." Theraxis opened one golden eye and fixed it on Jack. The captain met the dragon's gaze steadily, and Maya saw him blink in surprise as Theraxis's voice entered his mind. "You can hear dragons speak?" "Some humans can," Theraxis replied weakly. "Those with strong mental barriers. Usually warriors or those who have faced death many times." "Well, I'll be damned," Jack murmured. "I've heard stories, but I never thought. You're actually telepathic, among other things. Though at the moment, I am mostly dying." Jack knelt down beside the dragon, his earlier caution replaced by genuine concern. "What's wrong with him? Beside the obvious injuries, I mean." "He hasn't eaten in weeks," Maya said. "He's been used in gladiator fights for 7 years. And I think those wounds are infected." "Gladiator fights." Jack's expression darkened. "Bastards." "Zara," he called. "Change of plans. Set course for Haven Station." "Haven Station?" Zara's voice came back, confused. "Captain, that's in the middle of I know where it is. Just do it." Jack stood and began pacing, his mind clearly working. "Haven Station has the best medical facilities in this sector. If anyone can help your friend, it's Doc Meridian." "I don't have money for medical treatment," Maya said quietly. "I spent my last credit buying him." "Your last credit?" Jack stopped pacing and stared at her. "You spent your last credit on a dying dragon?" Maya lifted her chin defiantly. "Yes." Jack was quiet for a moment, then he started laughing. Not mockingly, but with genuine admiration. "Kid, you're either the dumbest or the bravest person I've met in 20 years of smuggling. Maybe both." "She is brave," Theraxis agreed. "Foolish but brave." "All right," Jack said, coming to a decision. "Here's what we're going to do. I've got some cargo to deliver to Haven Station anyway. Doc Meridian owes me a favor or two. We'll see what she can do for your dragon." "Why are you helping us?" Maya asked suspiciously. In her experience, adults didn't help without wanting something in return. Jack's expression grew distant. Let's just say I know what it's like to be alone in the galaxy with nowhere to turn. Besides, anyone crazy enough to spend their last credit saving a dragon deserves a chance. A new voice cut through the conversation. Captain, we have incoming. Maya turned to see a woman emerging from the forward section of the ship. Zara was tall and slender, with the characteristic silver hair and pale blue skin of the Altarian species. Her large eyes were focused on a handheld scanner. What kind of incoming? Jack asked. 3 ships, Ergani configuration. They're demanding we stop and prepare to be boarded. Maya felt their axis tense beside her. The arena masters. They have found us. How did they track us so fast? Jack muttered, moving to a wall console and bringing up tactical displays. They must have been monitoring station communications, Zara replied. The security alerts gave away our position. On the display, Maya could see 3 sleek Ergani warships closing fast. They were built for speed and intimidation, with swept-back wings and weapon pods that bristled with destructive potential. This is War Master Krex of the Ergani battle fleet. A harsh voice came over the communication system. Surrender the stolen property and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Jack looked at Maya and Thraxis, then at his displays showing the approaching ships. The odds were not good. The Wandering Star was a freighter, not a warship. In a straight fight, they wouldn't last 10 minutes. Captain, Zara said quietly, we could surrender the dragon. It's not our fight. Maya's heart sank. Of course. Why would these strangers risk their lives for her and Thraxis? She'd been stupid to think. No, Jack said firmly. We don't surrender to slavers. Ever. Zara looked surprised. Captain, there are 3 of them. Our shields won't hold up to concentrated fire for long. Then, we don't let them concentrate their fire. Jack moved to the pilot station and began bringing up navigation charts. Zara, remember the Kalos Nebula job? The one where we had to evade those pirate corvettes. Zara's eyes lit up with understanding. The asteroid field gambit. Yes, Captain. What's the asteroid field gambit? Maya asked. Jack grinned, and Maya could see why he'd survived 20 years as a smuggler. Something stupid enough that it might just work. Hold on to something solid. The ship suddenly changed direction, diving toward a nearby asteroid field. Maya grabbed onto a cargo restraint as the deck tilted sharply beneath her feet. Beside her, Thraxis groaned as the maneuver aggravated his injuries. Sorry about this, big guy, Jack called back. Things are about to get bumpy. The first asteroids appeared on the view screen, dark chunks of rock and metal drifting in chaotic patterns. Jack flew the ship into the field without slowing down, weaving between massive boulders with casual precision that spoke of years of experience. Ergani ships are following us in, Zara reported. They're having trouble with the asteroid density, though. Their ships are too big for tight maneuvering. That's the idea. Take us deeper into the field. Maya watched through a small porthole as they flew deeper into the asteroid maze. Some of the rocks were the size of buildings, others the size of houses. Jack piloted the ship through gaps that seemed impossibly narrow, the hull scraping against stone walls that sparked in the darkness. Behind them, the Ergani ships were struggling to keep up. Their larger vessels couldn't navigate the tight spaces, and they were falling further behind with each passing moment. There, Jack said, pointing to a massive asteroid ahead of them. That one is caves. Zara, prepare for emergency landing. Landing? In an asteroid field? Trust me. The asteroid Jack had chosen was a massive, irregular chunk of rock, easily the size of a small moon. As they approached, Maya could see that its surface was pocked with caves and crevices, some large enough to hide a ship. Jack selected one of the larger caves and flew them inside. The cave was deeper than it appeared from outside, and after a few minutes of careful navigation, they emerged in a vast underground chamber. Jack set the ship down on a relatively flat area and powered down all non-essential systems. Total communication blackout, he ordered. No active sensors, no transponder signals. We're going to sit here and wait for them to pass by. In the sudden silence, Maya could hear Thraxis's labored breathing echoing off the cave walls. The dragon had grown weaker during the chase, and she was beginning to fear that they were simply prolonging the inevitable. "Do not despair," Thraxis said, apparently sensing her thoughts. "I have survived 7 years of captivity. I can survive a few more hours." "How long do we wait?" Maya asked. "As long as it takes," Jack replied. "The Organi aren't known for their patience. They'll search for a while, then give up and move on to easier prey." Zara had pulled out a medical kit and was approaching Thraxis. "May I examine your injuries?" she asked politely. "You may try," Thraxis replied, "though I fear there is little that can be done with basic medical supplies." Zara began her examination, her trained hands moving gently over the dragon's wounds. Her expression grew increasingly grim as she worked. "The wing is definitely broken," she reported. "Multiple fractures that have healed incorrectly. These burns along his flanks are infected, and there's significant internal damage. His lung capacity is compromised, probably from repeated electrical shocks." "Electrical shocks?" Maya asked. "Arena masters use shock prods to control their fighters," Thraxis explained. "Over time, the repeated trauma damages internal organs." Maya felt sick. 7 years of torture. "There's something else," Zara said quietly. "Something I've never seen before. His scales are not just dull from poor health. They've been surgically removed in several places and replaced with synthetic ones." Jack frowned. "Synthetic scales? What's the point of that?" Zara pointed to several areas on Thraxis's body where the scales had a slightly different sheen. "These synthetic scales are designed to enhance pain reception. They make the dragon more sensitive to injury, which makes the fights more entertaining for the audience." Maya stared at the artificial scales in horror. The cruelty was beyond anything she had imagined. How could anyone do something like that? "Because to them, I am not a being," Thraxis replied sadly. "I am a thing, a tool for entertainment. My pain, my suffering, my intelligence, none of it matters to them." Jack's hands were clenched into fists. "Those synthetic scales, can they be removed?" "In theory, yes," Zara said. "But it would require delicate surgery, and replacement with natural scales would take months of treatment. The kind of treatment that costs more money than most people see in a lifetime." An idea was beginning to form in Maya's mind. "Thraxis, you said you were heir to the ruby throne of Dracosia. What happened to your kingdom?" "It fell during the Dragon Wars 300 years ago. The survivors were scattered across the galaxy. Most were hunted down and killed or enslaved. A few escaped to hidden colonies in the Outer Rim. But if you're the rightful heir, if I were to somehow reclaim my throne, yes, the resources of Dracosia could be restored. But I am dying, Maya. Even if I could reach the hidden colonies, even if they accepted my claim, it would not matter. I will be dead within days." Maya was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. Then she turned to Jack. "How far are we from the Outer Rim?" "Depends on where in the Outer Rim you want to go. Could be anything from a few days to a few weeks." "Why?" "Because we're going to find those hidden dragon colonies." Jack and Zara exchanged glances. "Maya," Zara said gently, "even if such colonies exist, we have no idea where they are. The Outer Rim is vast and largely unmapped. Then we'll search until we find them," Maya said stubbornly. "Child," Thraxis said, his mental voice weaker than before, "you do not understand. I will not survive such a journey. You will if we keep you alive." "With what?" Jack asked practically. "We don't have medical equipment for a dragon. We don't have the kind of specialized food he needs. And we definitely don't have the money for the treatment he'd need at Haven Station." Maya stood up and began pacing, her mind working furiously. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. That was when the inspiration struck. "The synthetic scales," she said suddenly. "They're valuable, right? Rare technology." Zara nodded slowly. "Extremely valuable. The manufacturing process is a closely guarded secret. A single synthetic scale could be worth thousands of credits on the black market. And Thraxis has dozens of them." Understanding dawned in Jack's eyes. "You want to sell the scales to pay for his medical treatment?" Not just sell them, Maya said, her excitement growing. We sell them to pay for Thoraxis's treatment. Then, use the rest of the money to outfit this ship for a proper expedition to the Outer Rim. You would remove parts of my body to sell them? Thoraxis asked, and Maya could sense his confusion and hurt. Not your body, Maya said firmly. The things they put in your body. The things they use to torture you. We turn their weapons against them. Jack was nodding slowly. It could work. Doc Meridian would pay handsomely for samples of that technology. And she'd throw in the medical treatment for free just to get her hands on the research possibilities. But the removal process would hurt, Zara acknowledged. But, Thoraxis, you're dying anyway. And the synthetic scales are actually making your condition worse by amplifying your pain. Removing them will be therapeutic as well as profitable. Thoraxis was quiet for a long moment, considering. You would use the money from my torture devices to restore my freedom? And to help you reclaim your kingdom, Maya added. There is poetry in that idea, Thoraxis admitted. Very well. I consent to this plan. A proximity alarm suddenly chimed, and Jack moved to check the sensors. Ergani ships are leaving the asteroid field. They're broadcasting on open channels. Sounds like they're giving up the search. So we're safe. Maya asked. For now. But word about you two is going to spread. Every bounty hunter and slaver in the sector will be looking for a human girl and a dragon. Jack paused, thinking. We need to change our approach. Instead of running, we need to make you too valuable enough that people want to protect you instead of capture you. How do we do that? Jack smiled. By turning you into a legitimate salvage operation. Zara, pull up the registration databases. I want to file a claim for archaeological research in the Outer Rim. What kind of archaeological research? Zara asked as she began working at her console. Dragon ruins, ancient civilization, lost technology. Jack was clearly enjoying himself now. If word gets out that we're searching for the lost dragon kingdoms, every academic institution and treasure hunter in the galaxy will want to fund our expedition. Maya felt a surge of hope. You think it will work? Kid, I've been running cons in this galaxy for 20 years. This one might just be crazy enough to succeed. Jack paused and looked at Thoraxis. Of course, it all depends on whether our royal friend here can actually point us in the right direction. Thoraxis raised his great head with effort. I know the general location of 3 hidden colonies, but the journey will be dangerous. The Outer Rim is not empty space. There are things out there that even dragons fear. What kind of things? Maya asked. Ancient guardians, automated defense systems, and, worse, the devourers. The what now? Jack asked. A mechanical race that consumes organic life for fuel. They were created during the Dragon Wars as a weapon, but they became uncontrolled. They haunt the deep space between systems, hunting any ship foolish enough to travel alone. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. How do we avoid them? You do not avoid them. You either escape them, destroy them, or become their next meal. Jack and Zara exchange another look. Captain, Zara said carefully, maybe we should reconsider this plan. Are you kidding? Jack grinned. Ancient dragon kingdoms, lost technology, mechanical monsters, and the chance to stick it to slavers? This is the best job offer I've had in years. Maya looked at him in amazement. You're actually excited about this. Damn right I am. Life's too short for boring runs. Jack moved to the communications console. All right, let's get this show on the road. First stop, Haven Station for some dragon surgery. Then we outfit for the expedition of a lifetime. As the wandering star powered up and began to move toward the cave entrance, Maya sat beside their axis and took his massive head in her lap. The dragon's breathing was still labored, but there was something different in his golden eyes now. Hope, perhaps. Or purpose. Do you really think this will work? She asked him mentally. I think, Thoraxis replied, that you have given me something I thought I had lost forever. What's that? A reason to live. Outside the cave, the stars of the Outer Rim beckoned, promising adventure, danger, and the chance to restore a lost kingdom. Maya had spent her last credit on a dying dragon, and somehow that simple act of compassion had set in motion events that would change the galaxy. But first, they had to survive what was coming next. Haven Station hung like a metallic flower in the void, its 5 massive petals rotating slowly around a central hub. Each petal contained different sections of the station: residential, commercial, industrial, medical, and defense. The medical petal, where they were heading, was easily recognizable by its pristine white hull and the Red Cross symbols that marked it as neutral territory. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Jack said as they approached through the shipping lanes. Haven Station was built by a consortium of species who got tired of wars interrupting their trade routes. Completely neutral, heavily defended, and the best medical facilities this side of the core worlds. Maya watched through the viewport as they passed cargo ships from dozens of different species. She could see Altarian bird-like vessels with their swept-wing designs, bulky Vorthak trading ships that looked like flying bricks, and sleek elven scouts that seemed to bend light around their hulls. "So many different species," she murmured. "Haven Station is one of the few places in the galaxy where everyone is welcome," Zara explained. "As long as you follow the neutrality laws and pay your docking fees." Their axis had grown weaker during the 3-day journey from the asteroid field. He spent most of his time sleeping, and when he was awake, his mental voice was barely a whisper. The synthetic scales were indeed making his condition worse, causing constant pain that drained his remaining strength. Requesting docking clearance, Jack transmitted to station control. "This is the independent freighter Wandering Star, registration 77 Alpha 9. Wandering Star, this is Haven Control. You are cleared from Medical Bay 7 on the 3rd level. Be advised, you've been flagged for customs inspection upon arrival." Jack frowned. "Flagged? What for?" "Unknown cargo manifest irregularities. Please stand by for boarding once you dock." Maya felt her heart sink. "They know about their axis." "Maybe," Jack said, his hands busy at the controls. "Or maybe it's routine. Either way, we'll deal with it when we get there." The docking process took another 20 minutes, during which time Thraxis's condition seemed to worsen. His breathing became even more labored, and Maya could see that his scales were starting to lose their color entirely in some places. "I may not survive much longer," he admitted to her privately. "You have to," Maya replied fiercely. "We're so close to getting you help. If the customs officials discover me, they won't. We'll figure something out." But as the ship settled onto the docking clamps and the cargo bay doors opened, Maya realized that figuring something out might be harder than she'd hoped. 3 figures stood waiting at the bottom of the ramp. A human customs official in a crisp uniform, a Vorthak security guard whose massive frame filled the doorway, and a 3rd figure that made Maya's breath catch. Dr. Elena Meridian was not what Maya had expected from Jack's description. She was a small, elderly human woman with silver hair pulled back in a practical bun, and the kind of hands that spoke of decades of delicate work. She wore a simple medical coat over practical clothes, and her eyes were the sharp green of someone who missed nothing. "Captain Morrison," she said as Jack descended the ramp. "Well, I got your message. I almost didn't believe it." "A dragon? Really?" "Hello to you too, Doc," Jack replied with a grin. "And yes, really, though he's in pretty bad shape." The customs official stepped forward. "Captain Morrison, I'm Inspector Hayes. We need to examine your cargo manifest and inspect all aboard your vessel." "Of course," Jack said smoothly. "We have nothing to hide. Standard cargo run to the outer rim sectors." Maya felt panic rising in her chest. There was no way to hide their axis, and if customs discovered him, they might classify him as contraband and confiscate him. She looked around desperately for options. That was when she felt their axis stirring in her mind. "Maya, listen carefully. I'm going to do something that will be difficult. When customs officials board, they must not see me as I am." "What do you mean?" "Dragons have certain abilities that we rarely use. I can alter perception, make myself appear as something else. But it requires great effort, and in my current condition, you could die. I will certainly die if I am discovered. This way, there is at least a chance." Before Maya could protest, she felt a wave of mental energy emanate from their axis. It was like standing in a warm wind, but the wind was made of thoughts and images instead of air. Suddenly, where the massive dragon had been lying, there appeared to be a collection of mining equipment. Maya blinked, knowing it was an illusion but unable to see through it. Even touching the equipment felt real, though she knew her hand was actually resting on Thraxis's scales. Incredible, she whispered mentally. It will not last long, Thraxis replied, and she could hear the strain in his voice. Minutes only. Make them count. Inspector Hayes and his team boarded the ship and began their inspection. Maya watched nervously as they examined the cargo bay, their scanners sweeping over the area where Thraxis lay concealed. Mining equipment, the inspector noted, making marks on his tablet. Destination? Outer Rim prospecting, Jack replied. New asteroid fields need proper equipment. Dr. Meridian was examining the illusion with obvious interest. Impressive collection. Some of this equipment looks quite specialized. Maya held her breath. Could the doctor see through the illusion? Very specialized, Dr. Meridian continued. In fact, some of it looks almost biological in nature. The inspector looked up. Biological mining equipment? Oh yes, Dr. Meridian said casually. Latest technology. Biomechanical interfaces that can adapt to different mineral compositions. Quite expensive, but very effective. Maya realized that Dr. Meridian was deliberately helping to maintain the deception. Somehow, the woman had figured out what was really happening and was playing along. The inspection continued for another 10 minutes before the inspector declared himself satisfied. Everything appears to be in order. Enjoy your stay at Haven Station. As soon as the officials left, the illusion flickered and failed. Thraxis became visible again, but Maya could see that the effort had cost him dearly. His breathing was even more shallow, and his golden eyes were dim with exhaustion. Dr. Meridian approached slowly, her medical training evident in the way she observed Thraxis's condition. My God, she whispered. 7 years of arena fighting, you said? It's a miracle he's still alive. Dr. Thraxis said, his mental voice reaching her easily. I fear I do not have much time left. No, you don't, Dr. Meridian agreed bluntly. But you have enough. Barely. She turned to Jack. I'll need to operate immediately. The synthetic scales have to come out, and there are internal injuries that need attention. How long will it take? Maya asked. Hours. Maybe days. This kind of surgery has never been attempted before. Dr. Meridian paused. I should warn you, there's a significant chance he won't survive the operation. And if we do nothing, he'll be dead by tomorrow. Maya knelt beside Thraxis and placed her hand on his snout. What do you want to do? I want to live, he replied simply. For the first time in 7 years, I want to see another sunrise. Dr. Meridian had already begun making preparations. We'll need to move him to my private surgical facility. I have equipment there that can handle non-human physiology. What about payment? Jack asked. Those synthetic scales we discussed will more than cover the costs, Dr. Meridian confirmed. In fact, if the technology is as advanced as you've described, the research value alone will be worth a small fortune. Moving Thraxis proved to be a challenge. Even with anti-grav lifters, his massive form was difficult to maneuver through the station's corridors. They attracted curious stares from other species, but Dr. Meridian's reputation ensured that no one asked uncomfortable questions. The surgical facility was impressive, a gleaming chamber filled with equipment Maya couldn't begin to identify. Robotic arms hung from the ceiling like mechanical spiders, while banks of monitors displayed readouts in dozens of different alien medical formats. Zara, Dr. Meridian said, I'll need your help. You have the steadiest hands I've ever seen, and this operation will require absolute precision. What can I do? Maya asked. You can maintain mental contact with him during the surgery. Dragons respond better to medical treatment when they have a telepathic anchor. It will help keep him calm and focused. As Dr. Meridian and her medical team prepared for surgery, Jack pulled Maya aside. Kid, I need to ask you something. That illusion he created back on the ship, that took serious power. Are you sure you know what you're dealing with here? Maya looked at Jack in confusion. What do you mean? I mean, dragons aren't just big flying lizards with telepathy. They're one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. When they ruled their kingdoms, they had technology that made the current galactic civilizations look primitive. So if Thraxis is really the heir to a dragon throne, and if he recovers his full strength... Jack paused. Maya, you might not just be saving a life. You might be restoring an empire. Before Maya could respond, Dr. Meridian called them over. We're ready to begin. Maya, I need you to maintain contact with him throughout the procedure. If his life signs start failing, you may be the only thing that can bring him back. Maya took her position beside the surgical table. Thraxis looked up at her, and despite his weakness, she could see gratitude in his ancient eyes. Are you ready? She asked him. I have been ready for 7 years, he replied. Whether for life or death, I am ready. The surgery began with the removal of the synthetic scales. Dr. Meridian worked with delicate precision, using laser scalpels to separate the artificial devices from Thraxis's natural scales. Each removal caused him obvious pain, but he bore it stoically. Tell me about your kingdom, Maya said, trying to distract him from the discomfort. Dracosia was beautiful beyond description, Thraxis replied, his mental voice steady despite the surgery. Cities that floated among the clouds, powered by technology that was part magic, part science. Dragons and other species lived in harmony there, working together to explore the mysteries of the universe. What happened during the war? Fear, Thraxis said simply. The other species feared our power, our technology, our potential. They convinced themselves that dragons would eventually conquer the galaxy, so they struck first. As Dr. Meridian removed each synthetic scale, she placed it carefully in a containment unit. The devices were small, but incredibly complex, each one a masterpiece of bioengineering designed to enhance pain reception while remaining undetectable to casual examination. Fascinating, Dr. Meridian murmured as she worked. The integration with the natural scales is seamless. Whoever designed these was a genius. An evil genius, but a genius nonetheless. Hours passed. Maya maintained her mental connection with Thraxis, providing a lifeline of calm thoughts and reassurance as Dr. Meridian worked to repair the damage of 7 years of abuse. She cleaned infected wounds, set poorly healed bones, and began the delicate process of reconstructing damaged organs. His lung capacity is worse than I thought, Dr. Meridian reported. Repeated electrical shock has caused severe internal scarring. I can repair some of it, but he'll never fly as well as he once did. Flying was overrated anyway. Thraxis commented with what Maya was beginning to recognize as his dry sense of humor. The most difficult part came when Dr. Meridian had to work on Thraxis's broken wing. The bones had healed incorrectly and needed to be rebroken and reset. Even with anesthetic, the pain was excruciating. Maya, Thraxis gasped mentally, I need to show you something. Suddenly, Maya's mind was filled with images. She saw Dracosia as it had been, magnificent cities floating in pastel skies, dragons, and other beings working together on projects that spanned star systems, libraries that contained the accumulated knowledge of 100 civilizations. She saw the war, fleets of ships descending from hyperspace, orbital bombardments that turned floating cities into falling debris, dragons fighting desperately to protect their homes and families. And she saw the aftermath, the survivors scattered and hunted, their technology lost or destroyed, their culture reduced to legends and half-remembered stories. Why are you showing me this? Maya asked. Because if I die today, someone should remember what we were. What we could be again. You're not going to die. Perhaps not. But if I live, if we find the hidden colonies, if we restore even a fraction of what was lost, you must understand the responsibility you have taken on. Dracosia was not just a kingdom. It was a beacon of hope for the entire galaxy. The surgery continued through the night. Maya dozed fitfully in her chair, always maintaining mental contact with their axis, providing an anchor for his consciousness as Dr. Meridian worked to save his life. As dawn approached, Dr. Meridian finally stepped back from the surgical table. She was exhausted, her clothes stained with various fluids, but there was satisfaction in her eyes. "It's done," she announced. "The synthetic scales are all removed. The major wounds are cleaned and sealed, and I've repaired as much internal damage as possible." She paused. Now we wait to see if it was enough. Maya looked at their axis. The dragon appeared to be sleeping, but his breathing was stronger and more regular than it had been in days. The dull, lifeless appearance of his scales was already beginning to improve. "Thraxis?" She called mentally. "I am here," he replied, and his voice in her mind was stronger than she'd heard it since they met. "And I am hungry." Dr. Meridian laughed. "Hungry is good. Hungry means he wants to live." She turned to Jack. "I'll need several more days to monitor his recovery, but I think he's going to make it. What about those synthetic scales?" Jack asked. "Are they as valuable as we hoped?" Dr. Meridian's eyes lit up. "More valuable. The technology represented here is at least 50 years ahead of anything currently available. I have buyers who would pay millions for even one scale, let alone the dozens we removed." Maya felt a surge of relief. "So we can afford to outfit an expedition to the Outer Rim?" "You can afford to outfit a small fleet," Dr. Meridian confirmed. "But I have a better idea." "What kind of idea?" Dr. Meridian smiled. "How would you feel about having some partners in this venture? I know several archaeological institutions that would kill for the chance to study genuine dragon ruins. And I personally would love to see the hidden colonies you're talking about." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You want to come with us?" "Captain Morrison, I've spent 40 years studying alien biology. The chance to work with a living dragon, to visit the remnants of dragon civilization, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. What do you think?" Maya asked their axis. "Dr. Meridian has saved my life and asked for nothing in return. If she wishes to accompany us, I would be honored." Maya looked around at the faces surrounding her. Jack with his adventurer's grin, Zura with her quiet competence, Dr. Meridian with her scholarly excitement, and Thraxis with his ancient wisdom. 6 months ago, she had been a normal teenage girl living with her family on a cargo ship. Now she was planning an expedition to restore a lost dragon kingdom. "All right," she said finally. "Let's do this properly. Dr. Meridian, what kind of partners are we talking about?" "The kind with deep pockets and influence throughout the galaxy. Universities, research institutions, maybe even a few government agencies. Everyone wants a piece of the next great archaeological discovery. And in return, they provide funding, equipment, and political protection. In exchange, they get access to whatever we discover, publication rights, and their names attached to the most significant expedition of the century." Jack was nodding slowly. "It could work. With that kind of backing, we wouldn't just be treasure hunters. We'd be legitimate researchers with official sanction." "Which means," Zara added, "that the Organi and other slavers couldn't touch us without facing serious political consequences." "There is wisdom in this approach," Thraxis agreed. "My ancestors always believed that the strength of many was greater than the power of few." Maya felt excitement building in her chest. What had started as a desperate attempt to save a dying dragon was turning into something much larger. They weren't just planning a rescue mission anymore. They were planning to restore hope to an entire species and possibly change the balance of power in the galaxy. "There's something else," Dr. Meridian said, her expression growing more serious. "I've been monitoring galactic communications networks, and there are disturbing reports coming from the Outer Rim. Ships have been disappearing in increasing numbers. Entire survey teams vanishing without trace." "The Devourers," Maya said quietly. "You know about them?" Thraxis raised his head from the surgical table. "The mechanical hunters that were created during the war. We had hoped they were destroyed, but it seems some survived." "How dangerous are they?" Jack asked. "Imagine ships designed by the combined military might of a dozen species, programmed with one goal: the complete elimination of organic life. They are relentless, adaptive, and utterly without mercy. Dr. Meridian pulled up a holographic display showing reported ship disappearances over the past year. The pattern was clear, a spreading zone of destruction moving slowly inward from the galactic rim. At current rates, Dr. Meridian said, they'll reach the core worlds within 5 years, unless someone finds a way to stop them. Maya stared at the display, understanding dawning slowly. The dragon colonies. They might have weapons or technology that could fight the Devourers. It is possible, Thraxis admitted. The hidden colonies maintain some of our wartime technology, but accessing it would require more than just finding the colonies. What would it require? It would require a legitimate heir to the throne, accepted by the surviving dragons as their rightful ruler. Maya looked at Thraxis with new understanding. You're not just planning to reclaim your heritage. You're planning to save the galaxy. I'm planning to try. Whether I succeed, that remains to be seen. Dr. Meridian began gathering data files and research notes. Then, we need to move quickly. I'll contact the Archaeological Consortium and the university partnerships. With the threat of the Devourers spreading, we should have no trouble getting funding and political support. How long until we can leave? Maya asked. A week, maybe 2. We'll need to modify the Wandering Star for extended exploration, recruit additional crew members with specialized skills, and gather equipment suitable for investigating potentially dangerous ruins. Jack stretched and yawned. Sounds like we're really doing this. Maya, are you sure you're ready for what we're getting into? Maya looked at Thraxis, who was watching her with those ancient, wise eyes. She thought about the visions he had shown her of Dracosia in its glory, and of the responsibility that came with restoring such power to the galaxy. 6 months ago, I was just a kid on a cargo ship, she said finally. Now I'm apparently helping to restore a dragon empire and save the galaxy from mechanical monsters. Ready? I don't think anyone could be ready for this. She paused, then smiled. But I spent my last credit on a dying dragon, and that turned out pretty well. So let's see what happens when we really try to change the galaxy. Outside the medical facility, the stars of the Outer Rim beckoned with the promise of ancient secrets, lost kingdoms, and perhaps the key to saving all organic life in the galaxy. Maya Chun, the girl who had bought a dragon for 1 credit, was about to find out that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could reshape the destiny of entire civilizations. 3 weeks after the surgery, the Wandering Star was barely recognizable as the same ship. The Archaeological Consortium had been true to their word, providing funding that allowed for comprehensive upgrades. The cargo bay, where Maya first met Thraxis, had been converted into a mobile laboratory filled with scanning equipment, sample storage units, and a sophisticated computer core capable of analyzing alien technology. Additional crew quarters had been installed to accommodate their expanded team. Dr. Sarah Chan, a xenoarchaeologist from the University of New Geneva, had joined them specifically to study dragon artifacts. Commander Elena Vasquez, a former military officer turned private security expert, provided tactical expertise for dealing with the dangers they might face in the Outer Rim. But the most significant change was Thraxis himself. The dragon had made a remarkable recovery. His scales now gleamed with their original crimson brilliance, and while his wing would never fully heal, he had regained much of his strength. More importantly, he had begun to remember skills and knowledge that had been suppressed during his years of captivity. The hyperspace calculations are perfect, Zara reported from the navigation console. Thraxis's knowledge of the ancient star charts is incredible. He's identified navigation routes that don't appear on any current galactic maps. Maya watched Thraxis through the observation window that had been installed between the lab and his specially constructed quarters. The dragon was working with Dr. Chun, his claws delicately manipulating holographic displays as he translated ancient dragon texts. The coordinates for the first colony are confirmed, Thraxis's voice whispered in her mind. Valdris Prime, hidden in the nebula of forgotten stars. If any of the colonies survive, it will be that one. What makes you so sure? Because Valdris Prime was our last stronghold during the war. It was designed to remain hidden even if the rest of Dragon civilization fell. Captain Morrison's voice came over the intercom. All hands prepare for hyperspace jump. Estimated travel time to destination: 6 days. Maya felt the familiar stomach-dropping sensation as the ship transitioned into hyperspace. Through the viewport, normal space disappeared, replaced by the swirling blue-white tunnel that would carry them deeper into the outer rim than any of them had ever traveled. "Hard to believe we're really doing this," Commander Vasquez said, settling into the chair beside Maya. The security chief was a tall, serious woman with graying hair and the kind of scars that spoke of real combat experience. "Any word from your contacts about Devourer activity?" Maya asked. "Nothing good. 3 more ships went missing this week, all in sectors adjacent to our route. Whatever these things are, they're spreading faster than anyone anticipated." Dr. Meridian emerged from the laboratory, her hands stained with various chemical compounds. "I've finished analyzing the synthetic scale technology. Maya, you need to see this." They gathered around the main display screen as Dr. Meridian brought up her research results. The synthetic scales weren't just torture devices. They were data collection units. "What do you mean?" Jack asked. Each scale contained microscopic recording equipment. For 7 years, they were documenting Thraxis's biological responses, pain thresholds, regenerative capabilities, everything. But more than that, she paused dramatically. They were mapping his neural pathways. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Someone was studying dragon telepathy. Not just studying it, trying to replicate it. The data contained in these scales represents the most comprehensive analysis of dragon neurology ever attempted. "This is disturbing news," Thraxis commented, having overheard the conversation through their mental link. "If someone has learned to artificially replicate our telepathic abilities, they could control other telepathic species," Maya finished. "Or worse, they could build machines that think like dragons." Dr. Chin looked up from her translation work. "That might explain some of the older texts I've been decoding. There are references to false dragons and mechanical minds that speak with stolen voices." Commander Vasquez was studying tactical displays on her personal tablet. If the Devourers have dragon-level intelligence combined with mechanical durability and manufacturing capabilities, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood the implications. The first 3 days of their journey passed quietly. They were traveling through largely empty space, using navigation routes that had been abandoned for centuries. Thraxis spent most of his time working with the research team, sharing what he remembered of dragon technology and culture. Maya found herself fascinated by the glimpses of what dragon civilization had been like. They hadn't been conquerors, as the historical record suggested. They had been explorers, scientists, and philosophers, using their longevity and unique mental abilities to tackle questions that other species couldn't even comprehend. "Dragons think in terms of geological time," Dr. Chun explained as they reviewed some of Thraxis's memories that had been preserved in crystal storage matrices. Where other species planned for decades, dragons planned for millennia. Their approach to science and technology reflects that perspective. "Is that why their technology seems like magic to us?" Maya asked. "Partly, but it's also because they integrated consciousness into their machines in ways that current galactic civilization considers impossible. Dragon ships weren't just piloted by dragons. They were mentally bonded with them, creating hybrid organic mechanical entities that could respond to threats faster than any purely electronic system. It was a beautiful partnership," Thraxis added. "Ships were not tools to us, but companions. We grew them as much as we built them." On the 4th day, they encountered their first sign of trouble. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, Zara reported. "Unknown configuration, but it's matching our course and speed." Jack moved to the tactical station. "How long has it been following us?" "Unknown. It appeared on sensors about 10 minutes ago, but it could have been shadowing us for days." Commander Vasquez took charge of the defensive systems. "No response to standard hails. Its configuration doesn't match any known species designs." Maya joined Thraxis in his quarters, where the dragon was staring out through the reinforced viewport at the mysterious ship. It was sleek and angular, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Do you recognize it?" Maya asked. "Ifir ido," Teraxis replied grimly. "It appears to be based on elven stealth technology, but modified beyond recognition." "Modified how?" "Observe the weapon ports. Elven ships use energy weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. This ship's armaments are clearly meant to kill." The situation became clearer when Commander Vasquez received a transmission on a secure channel. "Wandering Star, this is Captain Nix of the hunter vessel Shadow's Edge. You are carrying stolen property belonging to the Urgani Arena Syndicate. Surrender the dragon, and you'll be allowed to continue your journey." Jack activated the communication system. "Captain Nix, this is Jack Morrison. We have no stolen property aboard this vessel. The dragon was purchased legally, and we have the documentation to prove it. Your documentation is irrelevant. The Syndicate has placed a bounty of 50 million credits on that dragon, dead or alive. I'm here to collect." Maya felt Thraxis tense beside her. The dragon's claws scraped against the deck plates, leaving deep gouges in the metal. 50 million credits, he said bitterly. "I suppose I should be flattered." "Captain Nix," Jack continued, "we are operating under the authority of the Galactic Archaeological Consortium. Any interference with our mission will result in serious political consequences." Nix's laughter came through the speakers like broken glass. "The Archaeological Consortium has no authority in the Outer Rim, Captain Morrison. Out here, there is only the law of profit." The Shadow's Edge began to accelerate, moving to an attack position. Its weapon systems powered up, bathing the Wandering Star in targeting scanners. "All hands to battle stations," Jack announced. "This is not a drill." The Wandering Star had been equipped with defensive systems as part of their upgrade, but they were primarily designed to deal with the environmental hazards of deep space exploration, not military-grade weapons. In a direct confrontation with a purpose-built hunter ship, they would be severely outmatched. "Options," Jack called to his crew. "We could try to outrun them," Zara suggested. "But they have a speed advantage." "We could fight," Commander Vasquez added, "but our weapons are no match for theirs." Thraxis rose to his feet, his massive form filling his quarters. "There is another option." "What kind of option?" Maya asked. "I am not completely defenseless. Even after 7 years of captivity, I retain some abilities that might surprise our pursuers." "Thraxis, you're still recovering. Using your powers could set back your healing by weeks. Better to risk setback than certain death." Before anyone could object, Thraxis moved to the center of his quarters and began to concentrate. Maya felt waves of mental energy radiating from him, but this was different from the illusion he had created on Haven Station. This was older, deeper, and far more powerful. Through the viewports, Maya watched as space around the Shadow's Edge began to change. It was subtle at first, just slight distortions in the starfield, but it quickly became more pronounced. The hunter ship found itself surrounded by phantom asteroids that appeared solid to their sensors, but weren't actually there. "What the hell?" Captain Nix's voice came over the communications channel. "Sensor malfunction. All scopes are showing impossible readings." But the illusions weren't just visual. Thraxis was affecting the ship's navigation computers directly, feeding them false data about their position and the location of potential obstacles. The Shadow's Edge began to swerve and dodge, fighting enemies that existed only in their instruments. "I cannot maintain this for long," Thraxis warned, his mental voice strained with effort. "Vinay,